Hey everyone, so I wanted to make this video because it's the end of 2025. It's been a interesting year and I haven't made a video in a long time, which is kind of funny that I want to make videos and yet I fail to do it. So anyways, I'm making a video today just as more of a video for myself. I enjoy watching or reflecting on my progress with my business and sometimes I forget about what I was doing. So it's a good practice for me to do, whether anybody's watching it or not. So, but anyways, 2025 was a good year, but good in different ways. Last year I had shared that I had a very intense year, a lot of work, my best year for the business, which is true and remains true even till now. But I had high hopes coming off of that year. It was so intense but so successful, and I had made a lot of good connections, a lot of new connections that I thought would carry over into 2025. And so I went into this year thinking very positively about the year, and the year started off with a bang. I had a project that was for a different company I'd never worked with. It was being built brand new locally, and I got that job through a connection. So I started off the year very strong with that, and right after that project ended, I had a whole bunch of work with moving machinery in California. So I was flying back and forth from California until about June. It was my last trip, and it was a very good project because it wasn't that demanding as far as complexity. I didn't have to do anything in my shop for it. It was all just on-site work. So yeah, I started off 2025, 6 months in, pretty much on par with 2024. I thought I actually could break my record of revenue, but I had this drought, and that's what I was surprised about. I had a drought basically where I didn't get any jobs, or I had jobs that I was quoting, but the timeline was so long. It wasn't an immediate need. It was projects that were projected to be at the end of the year. So I was thinking, okay, here's jobs I'm quoting. These are more project-based jobs, not service jobs. And so I was still very hopeful halfway through the year, but I had all this time because I was quoting jobs and the work wasn't immediate. It was out in the future. And so I decided to do something that now I'm very thankful I did, which was well, first of all, it'll be interesting to watch this video again at some point, but I threw majority of the money I made in the year. So halfway through the year, most of the money I was making, while I was making it, I was moving it out of the business and buying crypto, up until about mid-June. And so I wish I didn't do it at such a fast pace, because a lot of the positions I had secured have since gone down an additional bit. And so I probably could have sized up in a lot of these and bought now. It's December, so 6 months later I could have had that cash and could have spent it. I didn't have to rush into investing it. I could have spent it now and acquired 30%, 40% more crypto. Anyways, I took a majority portion of my profits from the business and I pushed it all into crypto. And then I took a big portion that was remaining. So really 100% of everything after taxes was either pushed into crypto which was roughly 75% of that money. And then the rest of the money I used to invest in my business. And so I found a new shop that had 3-phase power. It had air conditioning. It had a bathroom, and it was larger. And so I invested in that space by securing it. My rent went up 4 times. So I was paying $300 a month for my other unit that got me through last year. But I realized I needed to invest. I needed to be more forward thinking. And so I invested in a bigger space. I invested in power, even though I wasn't necessarily needing it right now. I knew that in order to be successful later, I will need it. And acquiring it ahead of time is a small risk, considering the cost, for not being able to have it later. It would really screw me over if somebody needed to do a project and I needed to run the machine and I didn't have the power to do it. I scrambled for that last year, and that wasn't fun. So I realized I needed to do a bit of preemptive spending, and I did that. So I secured that location. It cost me $1,200 a month versus $300, so my overhead went up, but still that's relatively inexpensive considering the options around here. And also I invested in the space. I've spent about $5,000 in conditioning. I got the concrete floors sealed, and so I got it set up. I got it moved. My old shop moved over to my new shop. I got that all moved over, so I invested money in that. And then the biggest move I did while I had this law was I invested in a lot of engineering. So I spent all of my time designing a software system that I would be marketing as a complete drop-in package for machine rebuilding. And I invested in the software ahead of time so I could program the machine. I could simulate the machine. I had to pay an extra bit for a simulation package with Siemens. So I bought the programming software, the simulation software, and that was a good bit. That was probably $7,500 just in that. And I also invested in marketing for the first time. So I went to my first trade show in October, and I spent probably $7,500 getting that all set up. That was all the booth obviously cost a good bit of money. I had to spend probably $5,000 for that. And then I spent another couple $1,000s on marketing consultant. So I had hired a friend that had experience. I paid him some money to design some marketing tools for me so I could use them at the show and get it set up for the first time. So I can take those tools and use them, at other trade shows, but I had to pay up front to get that all set up. So I paid, money for that. That was a lot of money. I paid for the software and the marketing. Let's just call it $20,000. I invested a good bit into my business through this, and I think there was thousands of hours spent in this law, designing, engineering. So I spent all this time programming, and I'm still doing it now. I also spent all this time designing or coming up with a product that I can drop in that mimics other companies and what they're doing. So I got that set up because I wanted to be able to quote that as a highest tier solution I can provide is that solution. So I wanted to invest time in that. So I spent all this months. I spent pretty much from June until, really now. I'm still working on it. So 6 months of just nonstop work on optimizing and designing the product that I want to be marketing. And so that's really what this year looked like. It was very good 6 months, and then kind of a mediocre finish to the year on a dollar basis. I'm ending the year with about 80% of the revenue of last year. So it's down 20-ish%. However, I am actually in a much stronger position. That is actually a good point, now that I'm thinking about it. It's like an ebb and a flow. You know, it's last year was just cranking. This year it's a little bit of pullback. You know, I have a little bit less revenue, a little bit less work, but I invested so much in my business. That trade show, I built awesome connections. I never would have had these connections if I didn't invest that money and spend that time to go there and to meet people and to have something to show. And I spent money to do that. And so I'm very thankful I did that. And in the thick of it, I was concerned about my business because I did have this 20% pullback. But now, after going through it and seeing how well positioned I am now, 6 months later, I've quoted 3 major projects with this controller that I designed and the software that I designed. And these are significant projects. These are the biggest projects I've ever quoted, even considering last year and what I did. These are bigger, and I have 3 of them that are highly likely to hit next year. On top of, I'm carrying over a quote I did at the very beginning of 2025, this year. I quoted a job, and it's still waiting. I'm still waiting for approval, and we are now in a mode of waiting for a PO. So it got approval, and I'm waiting for a PO, and so that's carrying over as well. So I have these 4 massive projects that didn't exist and are now rolling over into the next year. And so I'm entering the next year. So this year might have been a lull on a 20%, pull back on revenue and profitability, of course. So I pulled back a bit on that, but I'm going to catapult myself into 2026 with these 4 jobs that I believe I'm almost certain are going to hit. And so I'm extremely thankful for that time I invested in the business and the money I invested in the business. I'm excited for what crypto is going to do. I hope that I can use that money to catapult me even further into success. And so I expect 2026 to be a great year and a record-breaking year. I think I'm going to project that I will hit $1 million in revenue. So my first 7-figure year in revenue. And I'm doing that I'm projecting that because of all of these projects I quoted that I believe will hit. I have a high probability of actually securing them in the next year. I'm carrying over a couple smaller projects. I created some contacts at this trade show that could lead to significant money in the future. Also, I'm going to go to another trade show in April. And so I'm going to spend another $5,000 to go to another trade show that's really tailored into what this product I created, the solution I'm going to provide, is tailored to this trade show. This trade show is directed. This trade show is directed specifically for the end user of this solution. So I am going to be setting up another booth and pouring more into marketing that product because this is the literal best place to do it. And so everything on top of those things, I have no idea what's going to come next year. This is all the stuff rolling over. So anything could happen in the next year that I'm not even aware of yet. So all these things that are lining up for me to have a 7-figure year. And the caveat to all that is, in order for that to happen, in order for me to actually be successful in all these projects and also secure 7-figure revenue, I have to quit my job. There's too much time off from work that I can't, I couldn't do it unless I took like a leave or something. That would be the only way to maintain my W-2 and my benefits without losing it all. is to have some kind of leave of absence or something. But I don't know about that. So I want to delay my exit from the job as long as possible, because I can store capital longer by not pulling a salary. So I'm going to do everything in my power to delay that. But that's what the next year looks like. So what I learned this year, I learned that you cannot count business. Even though you have all these quotes out and you have conversations that seem great, seem urgent, when you get into a realm of larger dollars, capital projects, the timeline is like 1.75 what you think. It's almost double what you think. And so the business that I was entering with in 2025, or quoting in 2025, it's just now taking all of the management to approve it, the purchase orders to come in. It's all now, on the horizon. It's actually critical that you don't count that business until it's actually a purchase order, because that is when the decision has been made, to actually purchase the product. It's the purchase order. It's not the quote, it's not the conversation, it's not anything else besides the purchase order. And I had to learn that the hard way, because I got so excited when I would quote things, and even the conversations were stimulating. I was getting so excited, but where that left me was 6 months into the year thinking the rest of the year is going to be great. I had all these quotes out, and yet it's lower than last year. And so the lesson is things take longer than you think. And what do you do in that downtime? I invested in my business, and I'm so thankful for that. I'm also very optimistic about crypto. I think that 2026 is going to see a final blowout euphoric phase, and all that money I invested into crypto, it's actually one of my largest. That is true. It is my largest dollar amount besides my home. It's the largest dollar amount I've ever invested in one asset. Is this year, and what I put in crypto. It's the largest investment dollar-wise up front that I've ever made. Now, of course, as my wealth grows, that dollar amount is relative, but to me so far, the most amount of money I've ever put into something besides my home is crypto. And I've put a lot in other things. And so I'm extremely excited for that next year. I want to see what happens, and I'm hopeful that I will profit a good bit from that I can use for the future, for making more money. And so anyways, it was a good year. I learned a lot. I had to shift my frame of thinking into long-term versus short-term. And investing in my business, I realized, was critical. I had to do that. And so all that time and energy that I'm spending up front makes life easier later when I can sell this solution. I've already spent 90% of the engineering time up front. So I'm investing a lot less time when the purchase order does come. I'm able to execute better and spend less time worrying about the details when I've invested all that energy up front. And so then what happens is I get the order, and I can really continue to be detailed, but push through that timeline and dial in on the details that are easily missed, that can make a difference for customer satisfaction and for the end execution. I need to focus on those details. So if I can build up my product where it's just turnkey, drop in, it's just how well can I drop it in, and not how well can I design it. So really a shift in thinking. And also I realized business isn't always up. It's sometimes down. And what you do in those down times is critical, because it can make or break the business. I'm so thankful I did that. And so anyways, just an update on the year, and I'm really excited to see what happens next year. I'm hopeful that that things will go well. So we'll see. And hopefully I can start recording some more of that action as it happens. But for now, it's just a milestone video for me to look back on and see how I've changed and how I've grown, how things have gone versus what I thought they would do. That's another thing, you know, expectation versus reality. So these are my expectations. Let's see what happens. Let's see how well I can execute it. And I'm expecting to crush it. So anyways, until next time.